So welcome to the draft annual plan hearings. Of course, we started yesterday. We had a big day yesterday. Quite a number of people come and speak to us. It was all very interesting. Just to tell you what happens, if you haven't been to an annual plan hearing before, those people that are speaking to us get a chance to so do for 10 minutes. If they happen to finish early, there could be some questions from councillors, although you're welcome to use the full 10 minutes yourself if you would rather. So our first speaker is Margaret Murray Bench, and welcome, Margaret. And you're used to this, so you probably feel quite comfortable, and just make your presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and councillors and staff. I introduce Alan Costa, who's here with me. Also have Mike Mitson and Paul from Thorn Road, and Mike is from Soldiers Road. And sir, our submission, and I apologise for Erica Harvey, she would have been here with us as well. On our first one is the Cambridge Road State Highway 29 corner. And we've got massive problems at that intersection. It doesn't matter when you drive into the city along either road, whether you're coming from Cambridge, which comes from Te Puna, right through. The queues are long and drivers are struggling to move at all. And of course, with the development at the lakes, it's making it even worse. And either direction, whether it's Cambridge, the queues go back to Villa Ridge on a good day and far further back on others. But on State Highway 29, they back up to Ruahihi Road as well. And even the traffic officers are out trying to slow down traffic to make sure they don't bump into anybody when they hit the queues. It's a really serious problem. And we were promised, sir, lights at that intersection a long time ago. And are you going to interfere with
Margaret,
my 10 minutes, Rick?
Yes, just briefly, because you're so far away from the mic and the paper's blocking, the people watching on live stream won't be able to hear you. Are you able to sit down and get closer to the mic? I'm just thinking about those wanting to listen in.
It's very kind of you. You go back to the 10 minutes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Thanks, Rick. So at that intersection is dynamite, and we are a congested city. We're a congested sub-region. It isn't just Tauranga that's got a problem. Western Bay is struggling with a government that doesn't listen, and so we've got issues. But I'd like to say, sir, that intersection, Cambridge Road, is Tauranga City's council responsibility. State Highway 29 is government's. And if you can encourage the lights to go in there to actually manage the traffic better, it would be a help, like you've done down in Elizabeth Street. That's the first thing, and Ellen may wish to comment on that later. Gargan Road, yesterday I drove along a beautiful boulevard through the industrial commercial area at the lakes. If you haven't done it, you should. It's beautiful. And the amount of money that's going in there, Tauranga, it's a very exciting thing for our whole region. But you come to several blocks of concrete down at the bottom of Gargan Road. So I drove along this beautiful boulevard, went around the roundabout, but couldn't move into Gargan Road. And yet when we designed, I didn't, when Adam Francis from the Transport Agency, a fabulous guy, when he designed from Redwood Lane on 29 up around to Tauriko, they allowed for a right-hand turn into Gargan Road and a left-hand turn when you're coming through from Tauriko, you can turn into Gargan Road. So you go down to the bottom of that hill and there are concrete blocks there. And I don't know what purpose they're meant to be serving, because they should not be there. And so, sir, and I'm sure Alan will want to comment on that further. My last point is the left-hand turns. I think you need to educate your planners a little better, because the left-hand turn when you're on Moffat Road, the left-hand turn into Beaumaris has been removed. When you're coming up Chadwick Street to Cameron Road, the left-hand turn at the roundabout has been removed. And it's just allowing traffic to queue further than it needs to. So I'm saying, please take a serious look at what you're doing on the roading planning, but particularly on 29, it interferes with what happens in Western Bay. And as you know, we work closely and we work well together, and I just beg you to take action on it. Alan, you might like to comment, sir.
Yes, sir, I'd like to just add to Margaret's address. And the main concern to us is the road safety issues on State Highway 29. I'd like to confirm the traffic queues are backed right up to McLaren's Falls Road and at times from deadlock at Tauriko. And we have serious road safety issues here. The police are already warning motorists so they don't crash into the rear of vehicles in unexpected queues of traffic on State Highway 29 to Tauriko. And accidents are already happening, and it's only a matter of time before there is a serious accident like a heavy truck ploughing to the back of a school bus. And the Gargan Road issue, I'd like to ask why we are operating on a road plan for Gargan Road that is outdated and hasn't met the increased volumes of traffic. Council are putting road closures in that would normally come after motorways and bypasses are built, not before. Also, Gargan Road is a bypass that should be available when the road is blocked as a result of an accident at Tauriko. I would also like to ask, has the council done a cost analysis of the gridlocks? Gridlocks in Auckland are already costing an estimated $1.3 billion in lack of productivity, as reported in Scope News last month. An article in the Bay of Plenty Times last week stated we are rapidly heading for an economic meltdown in Tauriko because of lack of infrastructure. In the meantime, as we wait for the motorways to be built, I would ask that the barriers on a perfectly good access via Gargan Road to the Lakes Crossing and Rotorua be removed immediately to help alleviate the terrible congestion at the intersection of State Highway 29 and Comerage Road, and most importantly avoid a serious accident as a result of hidden queues. That's all.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Margaret. Okay for some questions? Yep. Okay, Councillor Morris and then Malloy and Stewart.
Thank you for the submission. The barrier across Gargan Road, or the old bit of Gargan Road there, isn't it, near that sawmill? That's
Yes.
Are you aware of there being any consent conditions in terms of the subdivision or impediments in a consenting framework as to why those would be there, or is it just a decision of council and NZTA, do you think, to do that?
We have no idea, but logic tells me even there's land that hasn't been subdivided at the top of the roundabout as it turns, when you go off along this beautiful boulevard and then you go round the roundabout to go down into Gargan Road, on your left, up on that hill area, that clearly is an area ready to be subdivided. But I can't see that in any way that should stop people moving around into that area. If you're coming from the Kaimais and you've got a farming background, if you go down through that boulevard, it's beautiful. The vets there, farmlands are there. There are lots of opportunities for people to actually call in and do work without it going anywhere near K Route or further on into town.
So that's something we'll look into then. Yep. Okay,
Thank you,
Councillor
Steve.
Malloy.
Just briefly, thank you, Margaret. That's a very, very busy intersection now, as you know, Gargan Road, State Highway 29, as you've just talked about, tailbacks up to McLaren's Falls Road. Would you be happy with a left in, left out only, so that there was some use, but...
I think we're ready to accept anything sensible, but I think planners would come out sensibly with that. The right-hand turn you can get in coming from Redwood Lane easily. There's got a good safe piece there to queue to go in, and even coming from Tauriko, it's reasonably easy just to slip round to the left.
Yeah.
You haven't removed that left-hand turn, so it's there waiting to be used.
Yeah, and some bollards could be put in there to make it a whole lot better too. The turn-in lane into Gargan Road, it's already set up there and everything. Yeah.
Thank you for your submission, and you're quite right about State Highway 29 Cambridge Road, and I've been saying it to NZTA for many years, and from memory I understand that they're waiting to get the integrated planning for the housing that's going to be released out Tauriko, and they're reluctant to do anything. I understand that's one of the reasons, but I think perhaps there are some things that could be done sooner than later, and maybe just everyone has to turn left to go down there, and maybe reducing the speed from that intersection down to the roundabout too would be a good safety thing, do you think?
The problem with that is people are now queuing to get down to the K route, and it doesn't matter which way you turn, they're queuing. And so turning from left Cambridge Road into 29, it's really quite impossible. But the other thing I didn't say, Mr. Chairman, is that coming down from the Anzac service at Pies Pa, the queue back was terrible coming through the lakes, because from the K route, people were driving around and there was a continuous stream of people wanting to get into the shopping centre. And you see, this piece from Gargan Road is not affected by that. It's a clean drive, and it's just one that's unbelievable that it hasn't actually had those blocks removed. And if there was a consent given, I can't believe that would happen, Councillor Morris.
I think, Margaret, you're aware that NZTA do not allow access onto state highways willy-nilly, and I would suggest, as Councillor Morris has said, that has been blocked because with the development in the lakes, that big pack house there, all the workers there, they do not want traffic just accessing the state highway, and it doesn't make sense, but they're very hard and fast about it. I'm sure our staff will look into it and get back to you on it.
Just say that it was the Transport Agency that designed the right-hand turn and the left-hand turn from State Highway 29 into Gargan Road. So I don't accept that argument, Councillor Baldock. Oh no, just in the last few years we've done that, and everybody moaned and groaned about the fact that you had to move over, heavy traffic did, and the sign should say you must move over, but it says you may move over, but it works well. And I think they did a wonderful design. I just think we should follow it through and help them by opening up that boulevard roundabout into Gargan Road.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret and Alan, and rest assured we are taking up a number of issues with the NZTA, and the interim chief executive of NZTA was here about a month ago, and I suggested that they drive past there on their way to Hamilton. I believe they did, and I'll be having a meeting with Minister Twyford in the near future, and what we're saying, this council, because we can only try and influence them, the same as the community. We have some standing, but we can't make them do anything, and we are taking the line that without significant improvement to the transport and roading network, we will be unable to open up anything else in Tauriko in terms of housing, which they need. So I'm hopeful that that will cause NZTA to see reason and some action to happen. Yeah.
Sir, we're being driven by ideology rather than community need, and there's something seriously wrong when that is the case, and because our people are suffering. I'm sorry, sir, but I just wish I was working with Tauranga, because on the highway up 29, all those intersections need attention, and working with people who understand it, like you do, would make it so much better than what it is at the moment. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Now our next submitter is Heidi Hughes from Bike Mount. Welcome, Heidi.
Hello again. Hi. Now I'm going to put a completely different hat on now and just talk about Bike Mount, which is my local community. And this is Emma. Emma also lives in Bike Mount. We've got a couple other Bike Mount members. We would have brought a whole lot more here, but we've been completely busy, as you guys have in the last few weeks, and haven't done. But there's huge support for continuing the shared path boardwalk to the end of Marine Parade. So we understand that with UFTI trying to make a plan for everything, that we can't do much more in terms of our big biking plans for our community, but we really need to get our little kids and our vulnerable users off the Marine Parade Road, because it's just incredibly dangerous. There were 3 crashes into cyclists a few weeks ago. There's crashes all the time. It's really dangerous because the cars are just backing out, and you just can't. They can't see us. We can't see them. Our communities kind of feels really locked out of that space. So this boardwalk would be. It doesn't. We've talked to the parks team. It's on the long-term plan to go to Tay Street, but what we're saying is that what we'd like to see is the whole thing fast-tracked and go all the way to Ocean Beach Road, and this would enable us to get off the road and get our kids and our scooters and everything onto the boardwalk. Now, we've talked to the parks team, and the parks team are really happy. They're really keen for this to happen. They've done a lot of work already around what this would look like. They're obviously ready for it to go as far as Tay Street. They said it's absolutely possible for it to go all the way to Marine Parade. It's $100 a linear metre to do a 4 metre wide path. It's 2.4 kilometres long. Obviously understand that there's the community engagement and everything else that goes on top of that cost, but it's under $1 million, which puts it into a what is it when you do a project that's under $1 million? It's a minor. That's right, a minor works rather than rather than something that has to go through a whole lot of process. So. So we just came as a group to say that this is something we think could be fast-tracked, super positive, amazing for our, I'm just going to show you, this is where it stops at the moment. It stops just after the cenotaph. So we're saying it should just continue along. So we're not dealing with changing any parking, we're not going into any roading issues, which are really contentious at the moment, and we understand that you guys are wanting to not go there until we get a full city plan going, but this would be huge. The benefits about it are that it would be a safe pathway for vulnerable users, tourist attraction to complement the Mao Walkway. Sometimes the Mao Walkway gets closed, and this would offer people this beautiful access to our whole beachfront along Mount Maunganui. We're one of the most popular beaches in the country, and we haven't got a boardwalk promenade along the waterfront there. So we think it would be a really positive thing for our communities right now who are dealing with a lot of angst to have something that just says, hey, this is a positive step forward that we can do while we're waiting for a lot of other not so easy wins to happen. So that's what we'd like to propose.
That's fantastic. Down around Tay Street, I think the dune comes right down to the curb.
Yes.
So from a user's perspective, there'd be no issue in maybe just removing a couple of car parks there and it coming onto that roadway and then back up again.
Well,
actually, I think there'd be some difficulty in cutting into the.
Yeah, actually, Tay Street, it actually goes around. It also goes around to get to the toilets and comes back out. So we were considering that people could go, there's the boardwalk, you wouldn't actually need to do that at Tay Street, Tay Street's a really busy place to take car parks away from, which would be contentious, but it actually does, we went and looked at all of that and went, oh, hang on, it goes around. So that part's good. There is a part further down where it comes very close to the road, and we talked to the parks team about that, and they said you could either cut in slightly and then bring it in, or you could do a concrete path out onto the.
And just,
road.
I think one of the main points is that we want to see if we can fast track this. It's in your 3-year plan. I mean, that's probably if we can. It's Mount Beach has once again been the most popular beach in New Zealand globally, tourism wise. So many people. So if we can get this moving faster. To actually happen, it would be a huge quick win for the community. It would mean that less cars coming down for the locals. We could actually just walk down or take our kids on the bikes. At the moment we can't. I have to drive down to the mount from Omanu, which is ridiculous because it's just not safe. Anyway, that's my
Awesome.
Thank you very much, Heidi and Emma, for coming in. And it seems like a really positive project to support. Just the question I've got is, where did you get your pricing or your costing $100 per linear metre? Because that would only make it about $270,000 for that very large length of walkway. So where did you get your costs from?
It was the parks team. So they're the ones doing the rest of the walkway. So I talked to the actual guys. So yeah, it sounded like a pretty good price to me. But that was them.
So that just requires some clarification
Yeah,
from our own
yeah,
staff.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'll just get Councillor Baldock and then we'll do the clarification at the end. Okay, clarification on that at all, if possible? No. On the cost of the boardwalk, Martin, would you happen to? Or is it Mark? Oh, Mark's there, sorry. Yeah.
Might be after subsidy, right? Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it?
So the
It does,
price of boardwalk, per lineal metre was quoted at about $100. Is that right, or just 4 metre wide? Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. The prices would be somewhat different to that now. And it's quite a length from Tay Street, and the original, or the concept would go from Tay Street to Ocean Beach Road. There are some areas where you'd have to consider what the design looks like and maybe use different materials, maybe a boardwalk at that bit where it cuts in close to Ocean Beach Road. The budget in the long-term plan was, I think, we're working with the roading, will be closer to $2 million. And we've moved it from the parks budget to the roading budget because hopefully then we can see it as a transport link and maybe get financial assistance rate from NZTA to bring the cost back. But we haven't done the detailed design. It's in roughly year 3 or 4, and we will do that closer to the time and consider what the more detailed cost would be at that point.
Thanks for that, Mike. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious, but you're going to be going on the east side of the trees right down there. There's no difficulty with the placing of all those trees there. When we did the Pilot Bay one, we had to kind of wander around, but that's where you're planning to go, is it?
Yeah, I mean, working with whatever works really. There's not enough room in most places. There's definitely a couple of places, not about trees though, that the places where it's the dunes that come up very close to the walkway at one point. Yep.
I just want to chew on this clarification thing. It's quite good to have little sort of standard costings in your head. I want one from NZTA for grade separated interchanges, so I'm still waiting for that. We're talking, the suggestion is $100 per lineal metre for a 4 metre wide, $25 a square metre for a... Have you got a different number? Forget about project cost and everything else. Is there a number you can give us to correct that number or to confirm that number's accurate, please?
The last time I looked at detailed concrete cost was 2 or 3 years ago. It's $102 a lineal metre for 1.2 metres wide. So
he said concrete. He said that concrete, was twice the price of boardwalk. And I only spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, and it was the parks, the guy that puts the boards down, but I understand there's a lot of costs obviously behind that, so I don't know where is $100 a square lineal metre, but he'd confirmed it and then got back to me with that price, and that was 2 weeks ago.
Just to be clear, I think it's a good idea, and I'm having a red letter month.
Yeah, right.
I've had 2 pieces of correspondence from Heidi Hughes in the last 2 weeks where I've been absolutely 100% in support of them. So one water bottling being the other one. But in this situation, it's just really important we get the numbers right, and I just need a number to replace that $100 a linear metre. If it's 400, I don't care what the number is, I just need an accurate number. Then I can make an informed decision.
So we'll ask for that specifically through the deliberations report. Yeah, and we'll get. Okay, and final question, Councillor Brown.
So Heidi, are you saying that the 2.4 is from Tay to the end?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got in the budget from...
Sorry, not Tay to the end, sorry. It's from so the Cenotaph to the end.
Oh,
sorry, yeah.
So we've already got half of it in the budget, so you're just asking us to extend the rest of it?
We are, and we're asking you to fast track it. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Through the chair to Mayor Greg, if we're going to get costs, can we also get depreciation and any resource consent costs as well?
We'll try and get an overall cost. Yep,
so
that's fine.
The other possible contributor could be the tourism Bay of Plenty, because this is a huge tourism win. Just putting it out
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I would love it if some of the tourism businesses actually that are making money put something back. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to happen, but we'll see. We'll try. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. Yeah. Okay, now our next submitter is Anne-Marie Andrews, and she's going to be speaking on behalf of the Whare Ora 111 Charitable Trust. So, welcome, Anne-Marie. Yeah. There's some tabled items there from the trust. So you've seen how it goes. Just relax and tell us what you want to tell us. Thanks.
Oh, I turned myself off. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Deputy Chair, fellow councillors. I am here on behalf of Hoki Bruce, who is part of a trust, and I have two trustees here with me for any questions at the end. Hoki, who was going to present, was taken really sick all of a sudden a couple of days ago, so they've rallied me to be their foghorn, but the brains are with me for any detailed questions. I'm just going to communicate the message on their behalf. So Vicky Davies and Maria Fuller are the trustees present today. So in what I'm presenting, I use the word we, but it's actually them. So on the Internal Affairs website, it explains some of the roles and functions of council pertain to sustainable district wellbeing, environmental safety and health, district emergency management, building control and other environmental health matters. It's these areas of council responsibility that this submission relates to. Today I'm speaking to submission 281. Tauranga City Council's aspirations for quality of life, quality jobs, and inclusive, safe, resilient and healthy city with sound foundations is great. However, this cannot be achieved without healthy, secure housing for all. We submit for the homeless and vulnerable in Tauranga. The Tauranga City Council must plan and provide for this growing need in our city. It is common knowledge that the huge increases in rent and a chronic shortage of supply of social housing are the main contributing factors to homelessness in Tauranga. Access to affordable, suitable and secure housing impacts low-income earners significantly. Māori families are affected the most. We see greater numbers of vulnerable people being forced into temporary accommodation, or even worse, with some having to live in their cars or take their chances on the streets. We at Whare Ora 111 Charitable Trust, who provide temporary emergency accommodation in Hawaii to those who are homeless. The property currently operated is church-owned and it has positive lease options for the future. We have the use of a community hall that has a common space for residents to use, which includes a kitchen, toilets and a shower. With the use of the hall as well as caravans, we currently house 24 people, including 7 children. We continually receive requests on a weekly basis from homeless people and families seeking shelter and accommodation. To be able to improve our accommodation and service for our homeless families and individuals in the community, we believe it is necessary to provide safer and more respectable living spaces in an environmentally friendly and sustainable manner. To be able to do this, we need to complete the following. Should I? Okay. Can I move that up? Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm all good. I go to Toastmasters. Go Toastmasters.
Okay, so this is what they need to do, what they're wanting to do. Upgrade the caravans to portable homes, such as pods or cabins. Supply portable bathrooms or an ablution block. Upgrade the hall and its facilities to include a commercial kitchen. Fence and gate the property for security purposes. Install a monitored security system. Establish an opportunity shop to sell donated goods. We envision being able to provide services and programs that will empower our residents as well as our wider community. Doing this through activities to develop creativity, employment opportunities, personal development, budget, cooking and life skills, drug and alcohol support, health and wellness. Our submission to Council includes the following: support from Tauranga City Council in meeting resource consent and other council requirements, funding for this project from Tauranga City Council in partnership with central government, and full-time employment initiatives for homeless residents, partnering with Council and Ministry of Social Development. In summary, we at Whare Ora 111 commend the Council's aspirations, but believe that there needs to be housing for all to achieve this. Increases in rent and current shortage of social housing are affecting access for low-income earners, Māori, and the vulnerable in our community. Our trust currently has the use of the property in Ohauiti and are providing communal facilities and accommodation already. It's necessary, though, to improve and develop what we're offering. We request support from Tauranga City Council, funding from Tauranga City Council, and full employment initiatives for homeless residents, partnering with Council and the Ministry of Social Development. We believe our work empowers both community and residents. It supports the roles and responsibilities of Council as explained on the Internal Affairs Government website. On the last page has been attached a breakdown of projected costs. This has to have brackets around it because of Hoki's unwellness. It is not complete, but certainly gives you an idea of the direction they're heading. I'll step aside now for any questions that the trustees may be able to answer.
Yes, so I'll just check if there are any questions. Councillor Malloy?
Yeah, recently we set aside a community wellbeing fund. Have you consulted with Council with regard to that fund? Has anybody talked to you about it?
I'm not aware that we have actually been given that information.
Okay. Can I ask, through the chair to the staff, has this trust been consulted with regard to the community wellbeing fund?
Need to look into that and respond back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies, for coming in and presenting. Clearly, these are very large dollars, large sums. What sort of discussions have you had with MSD, since this is primarily a central government issue, and what support are they offering you?
Yes, we have made initial contact with MSD, and that's Hoki Bruce has been in charge of that. The developments are still in the very early stage, so we don't have anything tangible at this point.
So a good idea would be to perhaps arrange a meeting with local government MPs, because they'll get you a direct line through to MSD, which would be very good. So just a helpful suggestion there as well.
Thank you.
Any other? Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Probably a little bit more of a statement, but also a question as well. You're talking about employment initiatives. Have you heard of Street Guardians in Auckland?
No.
It's an initiative that they've done through the heart of the city, and it's where the homeless community get to actually work within the community. So is that something that you're looking at doing?
Yeah, that would be great.
I can send you some information so you can look at it, because it's so far they've had a really good success.
Thank you.
I'll send you some information.
That'd be helpful, thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Baldock.
Just a comment. I just see in your costings, the pods, 30,000 to buy and 19 for the portable bathrooms. I was very surprised at the home show over the weekend to see a very similar thing, but combined with bathroom in them,
Yes.
kitchens in them,
That's
for
right.
$40,000. You know,
That's a pretty good price.
they're very good price. Yeah. I think if we could look at our rules to enable, it's not just the land you're using, but many places across the city
Yes.
where we could put these in a temporary way for the emergency we face right now. It could really meet a need of rentals.
Yes,
a lot
we-
of your
yeah.
people are needing just small rentals, like a
Well, we
one
have,
room.
Yes, well, we have,
Double
some of
room?
ours are individuals that have come in, but some are actually families. So we looked at those pods and thought, mum and dad could have one pod, and then children, there was enough room to put like 2 sets of bunks into the other. And they're very attractive, and they're very affordable. So we put both options in there. There's an option to buy, rent to buy, which, would actually cost a lot more, but the outright purchase price was much more affordable. So,
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in, and best wishes to hockey too.
thank
Yeah,
you,
thank you.
appreciate it.
Yes.
Mr Mayor, I see there's time's up. Is there a way that I can do a tap on connecting to what Councillor Baldock just mentioned around the how these pods can be used in multiple sites in the city? Is there an option for
if
that
I can
today?
link you with Councillor Baldock, and you can, he'll have a discussion with you about that, and we'll take
Okay.
that. We probably can't solve it here now,
No.
but it could be part of our discussion. So we'll note that, and
Yeah,
if
but
you
there's
could
just
swap
this-
email addresses with Councillor Baldock, and we'll sort
Have
that
another
out.
coffee.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Lovely,
And
thank you
yes,
for your
as I say,
time.
best wishes to hockey. Hopefully, well soon.
Thank you.
Now, our next submitter is from Sport Bay of Plenty. Are you okay, Zane, to present now? Thank you very much.
I'll just catch my breath after the stairs.
Hey, at least you didn't use the
ran.
elevator.
I ran up them, you see. Yeah, yeah.
Was you also sport the big car I saw go through the KFC drive-through?
It wouldn't be mine, no. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Zane Jensen, the Regional Facilities and Community Sport Team Leader with Sport Bay Plenty. Thank you for the opportunity to submit on the annual plan. From an organisational point of view, basically a big thank you. In summary, as you've heard us repeat in quite a few of these opportunities, we really believe that the value of sport and recreation to the community is very large, and the more and more insights that come out from Sport New Zealand that is really coming through in all of their surveys and their research is that although sport and recreation, as a vehicle, is a good tool for a lot of things physically and for mental well-being and whatnot, there's also the bigger community aspect to it, such as connecting communities and bringing people together. And what they've found in the value of sports study just recently is that by having that greater community buy-in through sport and recreation, it's improving volunteer numbers, it's giving the community a real sense of belonging, and sport and recreation is just that vehicle in which that's achieved. So again, just reinforcing the value of sport and recreation within our communities and how important it is to bring everyone together and connect from so many different backgrounds, ages, genders, the works. And which moves on to our next point within our submission, which is around thanking council for the forward thinking and the future long-term thinking within the spaces and places approach, and really putting investment into good investigations and feasibility studies and needs assessments all at the right stages. There's quite a few big projects currently underway at the moment that you're aware of that we totally support going through the investigations to be able to justify and guide decision making to make sure that it's the best thing for our communities. And a big thank you for our partnership between TCC and Sport Bay of Plenty. Again, we've managed to achieve quite a few great outcomes over the last 12 months and further beyond that as well. So, yeah, in summary, from Sport Bay of Plenty, it's just a big thank you.
There might be some questions.
Chocolates.
We're waiting for the brickbats as well. But anyway, Councillor Clout.
Thank you very much, Zane. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this question, but to what extent are you involved in all of the various projects that we're looking at, be it the badminton auditorium or the Memorial Park possible development? So all of those projects are potentially a stadium. I'm assuming that you're involved very sort of intimately in all of those projects.
Yeah,
Can you explain how that happens?
Yeah, so there's no direct, I guess, contract that says we have to be involved in every project, but through the Spaces and Places strategy, the kind of indirect outcome of that is personally Sport Bay of Plenty has been involved with all the steering groups of all these projects. So I sit on the CBD one, I'm sitting on the needs assessment for the Tauranga Stadium, the social infrastructure study we've been involved with, the badminton one. It's sort of, if it's a council-led or a Bay Venues led initiative or project, will get brought onto the steering groups. If you take the badminton one, for example, that's led by the RSO. We're alongside them right from Word Dot to help them get in front of you guys to support them to write their submissions all the way through. So very, very intimately in all of those projects, basically, we're across, which I guess, you know, from a Sport New Zealand perspective is where the Spaces and Places approach comes from, and the opportunity to sit alongside those projects and make sure that the steps are going A, B, C, D rather than A, Z, back to B, you know?
So with the badminton proposal, they came to us seeking a place to build, but what they're building is quite a significant building because they're going to accommodate other codes and so on.
Yep.
And they say, well, we will raise that money ourselves. It could end up being in the millions. Are you confident that they have the networks and the thing to get that underway?
Yeah, that's another strength so far to the Spaces and Places approach is we've got the relationships with the funders, and you know, we sit alongside these projects, and when the right steps are taken at the right time, the right outcome comes out at the end, and we can justify with the funders saying, yeah, absolutely, they've gone through the right steps, and we support this project because of X, Y, and Z, and because of that, we're starting to see the strategy have some real influence within where the funding's going. So it's sort of going into the right areas, which was the whole purpose of why it was put together at the start.
One thing I think our organisation is missing is a funding specialist, because there is so much funding available in New Zealand for across the whole spectrum, not just sport, everything. So do you have a funding specialist that works particularly in the sport arena?
You're looking at him. No, to be honest, not a funding specialist. We have good relationships with all the community funders. One thing that we need to look at in the future is definitely, you know, you're right, there's good amounts of funding there, but when you start talking about 5 or 6 projects across the Bay of Plenty, all in the sort of $5 to $10 million range, it starts becoming a big ask. So it's about also having these projects staged a little bit as well, you know, so they're not all competing for the same pot of money at the same time. But we definitely, through the process with the funders, we definitely have ongoing communication so that it's not a surprise at the end. So they're kind of, although don't have a funding specialist, we're working with them the whole way through. So in turn, they're almost the specialist, and they're working with us to make sure they give us the best opportunity at the end.
Thank you. I would like to see some data on the different sports codes of participation levels, and you're talking about volunteers, some information about that. Is it possible to bring it to perhaps the projects and services monitoring meeting sometime?
Yeah, absolutely. The Active New Zealand survey was done last year led by Sport New Zealand, and our insights analyst within Sport Bay of Plenty's just been given all the Bay of Plenty data, but it's all in raw form. So she's now working through that to break that down. So we've got a Bay of Plenty perspective, and then hopefully from that we can break that down into a TA level perspective as well. So once that's available, we'll definitely be able to present to you guys with it.
Sounds good. When, what would the time frame be for that, do you think, realistically?
We're hoping it'll be within the next couple of months.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll just a question to finish off with. Sometimes when we have people come in here and they tell us, of course, the high cost of participating in sports for their children, and one mother was telling us yesterday, was it $700 or $800? When you look at it, when you break it down, it isn't our costs or sports fields. It's money going back to central bureaucracies. And the cult of the CEO, we've got to pay those people huge money and stuff. What can Sport BOP do about that? Because, it is a pity if the costs of participation in sport, and they're not costs within our control, we're the least. Those are barriers to people participating. What can Sport BOP do about that?
That's exactly right, and our core role is to break those barriers down to enable participation no matter who it is. So what we then need to do is be aware of who that is, what sporting code, and go in and work with that RSO and actually get a better understanding of why the cost is what it is. And then from that we can then, if it's from a regional level, we can influence to a certain degree. If it's pushed down from a national level into the regional sporting body and then onto the club, we can then work with Sport New Zealand to investigate that a bit deeper. And at the end of the day, if we're working with a sporting code and we're saying to them, look, a huge barrier to participation is the cost, and if that's not a warranted cost, then the sport code should be innovative enough to believe that they can change or look at other options to make sure that those barriers aren't there to enable participation in their sport.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming along. It's been a good
Awesome.
session. Thank
Thank you all.
And our next speaker is Mr. Melvin Fountain. Welcome, Mr. Fountain. And Mr. Melvin Fountain's submission, you've got that written in front of you, and he's going to just speak to it now.
Right, I'm here today to convince you to construct a three-storey multiplex complex in the southern end of Coronation Park. This was formerly the Bowling Club Green, which is this building is needed now and to be ready for the forthcoming cruise ship season. The building's got 3 stories. The bottom level has got an information centre, a money changing where they can change foreign currency for the passengers coming off cruise ships. There's also an area there for tour sales, a little gift shop, a cafe, a baggage drop zone for passengers that can be embarked onto the vessels. There's also a bus depot zone there, and there's a block of toilets. On the second level, there's a passenger processing zone, which will involve the customs as well as the cruise things, which I can foresee that people will get on the vessels here and do their journey, because there's over 100 and something vessels during this current season. We've just had 100 and something. There's approximately about 300,000 people involved in this, so it's not a very thing to be sneezed at. Now on there you can, the 2 areas there have got a staging area where you can put on little cultural shows or little concerts, and also have a dance. You can put down bowling mats, dartboards and table tennis and cards and things like that to get extra revenue from it. There's also a kitchen up there and a block of toilets, and there's an administration zone for the administration of the complex. On the top level there's 4 units for accommodation, which I can visualise that coming on the aircraft, flying in here, because there's going to be more and more flights at the airport. So we need to have some sort of thing there just for overnight combination. If they can rent it out, that's another income. There's a also a viewing deck on the front of this thing. I'll show you the pictures later. And there's a custodian's accommodation as well who run the complex. This multiplex will eliminate the present disorganised chaos that is in Salisbury Avenue, where you block the road off and divert traffic and cause mayhem because of the inadequate system that there is there at present. Now, by the port being involved in this, which I'm having a problem getting to them, they don't want to know me because they would just keep saying they want to put your application in. Well, I cannot put them in unless I show them. Anyway, if they get involved in this and put in a series of walkways, covered in, but the present system they got is floppy barricades with a pup tent on there, and that's about all there is. And they're exposed to the weather. With a covered-in system, which will not affect the port very much in their operation, these passengers can come out to this complex and they can be diverted to the back of the cool store there into buses and transported out on their pre-arranged tours. This will eliminate all this congestion that's caused at the moment, and it just means in that piece along from Rada Street, I can't remember the name of the street that goes down towards the park, if you reopen it to 2 lanes, but 1 lane exiting into Monganui Road, this will get the congestion out of there and put it down off the Rada Street gate for the port, which is quite easy, go down to Totara and out onto Monganui Road. Now, there's 300,000 odd passengers coming in. Now, if we put a levy of $1 and only $1 per head, that brings in a lot of revenue. Now, if the port retains, say, 20 cents of that, then they can furnish putting their operation. Now, the council can get a little bit out of this, as well as the 40 cents will stay in with this complex, which will be the administration cost. Now, the name of the complex must be simple, and I've called it the Mount Multiplex Terminal. Now, the reason for this is that the foreign passengers do not understand some of our elaborate naming that you put in. Like, take, for instance, the Phoenix car park, unpronounceable. But anyway, if we keep it simple so they can understand, that's the best way. This is a do or die project. You either do it or it dies. Now, there's no reason why it should be. By having these walkways, customs will be able to control it, as well as get them out of the port into the thing. And the pre-book zones, well, they'll go out by buses. And anyway, a lot of them have been here many times, and they don't want to go on a pre-book tour. They want to have a look around here, which is at present is very diabolically organised, because they come off the ship and they don't know what to do. What do we do? Where do we go? Because there's so much of it's pre-arranged, which is another story. If we had this in the complex, they could buy these extra tours and go on probably up to Waihi Gold Mine, up to McLaren Falls and round the town, specialised service. The local bus service is very badly utilised on port days because people don't know where it is and what they do. And the quickest way there is for them to buy an all-day pass and go anywhere in the city. Now, if they were told and had instruction on it, it would be a lot easier. Now, we're going for time. Now, in the park itself, next to this complex, on the southern side, and along the fence line and down on the northern side, a covered walkway, which will double as a market stall, where they can come down with their little markets, put it all in there, and it'll all be pre-done, and all they have to do is put shelves up, hangers for clothes, or trestles, tables. Now, there's a lot of revenue can come out of this, so there's many, many ways of doing it. Now, you're probably going to say, where's all the dough going to come from? Well, it's quite simple. Currently, the port is running at about $48 million profit for this year. Now, the regional council is our biggest shareholder, so they get to us probably about 18 million out of it. That's for 6 months. Take a year, that's a lot of money. So we need to screw some money out of them, and which could be done quite easily, and some out of the port. Now, if this is combined there, And you people here get involved with the regional council, the Western Bay Council, the port, and that, I think this project can get up and going. And it'll be a great asset to the area, and it will be probably mostly talked about. I'm now going to show you a picture of it. That is what it looks like. I'm going to go the right way up. Right. Oh, very clever, isn't it? Now, I'm not an architect, but I've had a lot to do with train drawing over the years. Now, here is what it looks like. You can have these. It's where the market stalls are. There's the complex and there's the port. Right. Very simple things. And you don't have to be an architect to work it out. Now, in this area here, there's a little council building here. Put a walkway here. Put a mini golf course in and put a lighthouse in there where people can have a slide on and they can have... This is ingenuity, which some people probably think it's stupid, but why? People want these. There's revenue. So if you can get 10 million out of the thing, I've spoken to other people. I'm doing this on my own bat. I'm not representing anyone because everybody else seems to be doing their own thing. So the regional council, I've spoken to them. I've been to the Western Bay Council. I've spoken to Todd Mueller, the MP. I can't get on the port at the moment. Maybe you can organise that. I hope so. You might have contacts. But anyway, that's what I want you to do. So I'd like you to back it or forget it. So it's up to you. Put your hands up if you want to back it, because...
Thanks, Mr. Fountain. And I've got a couple of questions.
Yep.
Councillor Brown and then Councillor Stewart.
Yep.
Thank you, Melvin. We've both, Councillor Morris and I, have spoken to you about it and seen your plans a number of times, and we don't, I'm sure I can say we don't disagree that would be a great location, and what you're saying makes sense. But number one, it's Crown land, it's under the Reserves Act. The port have said outright no, and we've talked to them a lot. They will not allow us access off the port into the back of that area for OSH reasons.
What a laugh, what a laugh.
Yeah, so we are bound by so many things. So we would agree with you that it's a good idea, but there are so many constraints that it's, yeah, it doesn't make sense, I know, but we are bound by so many other constraints.
Thank you for your ideas and coming in today to present them to us. With regards to the size of the building, and you were talking earlier about an area for customs, when people pay for their cruises, it's from Auckland, you know, they end up at Auckland to embark or disembark, and most people want to get the value out of their money, so not many people would get off in Tauranga. So I just wonder the size of the building for customs, if you could elaborate. Thanks.
Well, I disagree with you about them. Why do they have to always go to Auckland? Auckland's got a major problem. They can't handle the big ships, and now they're starting to do something about it. This cruise industry in New Zealand has gone up to about 13-point-something% last year, and it involves a lot of people. I don't know how many of you have been on cruises. I've been on quite a few, so I know what I'm talking about. Now, the other part of the question was, I've forgotten now. Oh, customs.
Yeah,
Customs can just go down there and set it up, and all they do is look at your passport and pass you for that. It's just a matter of setting up some screens, and you walk around there, and the cruise ship company can put you get your little tag so that that's your access. They've done it here last year with the Queen Mary, and they put 500 people on, so it can be done here. So they don't say that it can't. And as far as this OSH Act on the port, I think it needs to go to government level, and they need to have a big meeting over that, because that's a fob off as far as I'm concerned. And they're so pig-headed because all they're interested in is making dollar. That's why I've had 3 emails to them to try and get a meeting to show them this idea, but because it's so simple, they don't want to know it, because I'm nobody. I've got no little letters after my name or any before it, so that's what they do.
If I can give a suggestion, of course, you mentioned the biggest owner is of the port is the regional council, and you should be able to get a meeting with your regional councillors, just like you can meet here with us. So they I'm sure, would agree to a meeting. I just can't see it.
I've already had a meeting with them.
Great. Yeah.
and I'm due to have another one with them as soon as I organise it. So I'm not mucking around with this, I'm pushing it. So if I can get your backing, then the more that involves, the better. So
Okay.
I fired my guns and my bullets.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Fountain, for coming in. I know it's a passion of yours, and as Councillor Brown's mentioned, you know, that principle is a good idea. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much for the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Let me know what happens. You know my email.
Yeah. Okay, so the meeting is now adjourned until 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock when we have the presentation from Puri